Good afternoon, everybody. This is Ryan Bradel, partner in Warden Berry's government contracts practice, coming to you from Warden Berry's offices in Washington, D.C. The very important legal update from the government contract world. The Armed Services Board of Contract Appeals recently issued a groundbreaking decision which recognized a new legal theory the contractors may use to pursue CDA claims against the government, particularly in the world of equitable adjustments. That new legal theory, which the ASBCA has recognized, is the notion that negligent negotiations by the government pre-award can lead to the reformation of the contract and an equitable adjustment for the contractor post-award. Now here's how this came about. The claimant in this particular case, a company known as Chugach Federal Solutions, Inc., had argued that the government had engaged in negligent negotiations during the government's evaluation of Chugach's proposal and other competing proposals. Now, the full story is a bit more complicated, but suffice it to say, for our purposes, that Chugach had proposed 311 personnel, or full-time equivalents, FTEs, to perform the work of the contract. But the government had estimated that it would take 421 FTEs to perform the work of the contract. And the government didn't say anything to Chugach about the fact that they had proposed far fewer FTEs than the government thought would be necessary. And the government didn't ask Chugach whether it fully understood all of the requirements of the contract. The government didn't approach Chugach and say, hey, you proposed 311, we think it's going to be 421, what's the discrepancy here? The government just went ahead and moved forward and awarded the contract to Chugach with a proposed 311 FTEs. But once performance started, Chugach had trouble keeping up with the work of the contract with only 311 FTEs. It had to hire more people and have its existing people work overtime, which cost Chugach a lot of money. So Chugach was losing money on the contract, and so they sought an equitable adjustment from the government to recover those losses in the amount of $36 million. Now, one of the theories that Chugach used to justify its equitable adjustment was that the government had been negligent in its negotiations by not alerting Chugach to the reality that it had proposed far fewer FTEs than was going to be necessary to perform the contract. So in other words, Chugach was arguing that the government was under a duty to alert Chugach to the fact that it was not going to be able to do the work with only 311 FTEs. Now, everyone who's been around government contracts for long knows that in most cases, the FAR requires the government to enter into meaningful discussions with offerors during the proposal phase. So, in other words, the government has to alert offerors to issues within the offeror's proposal. But up to now, that requirement was only ever enforced in the bid protest context. So if the government did not engage in meaningful discussions and then the procurement was found to have not been conducted fairly, and so a bid protest might be sustained and the government would have to re-procure the requirement. But what makes this case so unique is that the ASBCA has said for the very first time that the government's failure to fulfill the requirement to conduct meaningful discussions is grounds for an equitable adjustment. That is that, the ASBCA has said that the contractor can come back and seek more money from the government because the government didn't alert the contractor to issues in its original or its initial proposal. The implications of this decision are potentially massive. As the government argued in trying to get the ASBCA to decide the case the other way, this decision could spur a huge increase in contractors seeking equitable adjustments because the government did not alert them to certain information during the proposal phase. So we could see a huge uptick in contractors trying to get equitable adjustments. It could also lead to government contractors taking even bigger risks with their price proposals and bidding a price well under what they know to be profitable, with the thinking that, well, we'll bid low, we'll get the award, and then we can seek an equitable adjustment from the government down the road and try and make up the difference. I don't want to get overheated on how all of this could turn out. Usually the fallout is not as bad as people initially predict, but certainly the potential is there from this decision. So we'll have to see how it all plays out. But the important takeaway for contractors here is to know that if you're in a position where you need to seek equitable adjustment from the government and get more money, you now have a new arrow in your quiver, and so it might be good to add this argument to your request for equitable adjustment that the government did not engage in meaningful discussions during the proposal phase. So I appreciate your time. If you have any questions about this or any other government contracts issues, please feel free to reach out to us at Ward & Berry.